was thinking about what are the top 3 lessons I have learned in 2021 compared to 2020 and all of the crazy that happened in 2020. And I was thinking a lot about how this year was a really potent year for growth, for transcending shadow consciousness, and really letting go. And so I wanted to just share only 3 lessons that I've really learned this year that have completely transformed my life. This year, I enrolled in a really powerful mastermind, and it taught me so much about the ways I was settling and holding back. And I did a lot of personal just development on my own journey and with my own tools and my own processes. And I really just want to share a little bit about that and the things that have really stood out to me as a whole. You know, there's this really interesting thing that I feel like is happening in the personal development world. And there's like this division point happening where what I'm seeing is we are falling into this trap of excessive healing work. And what it's doing is it's actually keeping us stuck in a particular holding pattern where we are constantly trying to improve ourselves, constantly trying to fix ourselves, constantly trying to hunt down our shadow work, constantly trying to really get into that inner child work. And there's nothing wrong with this as a whole, but what I'm finding is there's this huge issue in the industry where we are allowing this to be the driving holder of our life. And what it's doing is it's creating so much dissonance in who we are because it's keeping us stuck. And what I've really begun to notice with this is, and this is something that I truly stand for at the Awaken State, is it's not necessarily about just healing. It is never really about that. What is actually going on is we need to learn to step into a place of emotional empowerment in our lives rather than trying to fixate and obsess about our flaws and about our shadow work and about healing our inner child wounds and healing karmic baggage and even going into past ancestral lives and past lives. And even I've heard some crazy ass things like starseed galactic origins and all sorts of weird shit. We need to strip back the layers and make things more simple for ourselves. Like, if there's anything I've been learning this year, it's we're in a paradigm shift right now, and it is showing us that to enable the new in our lives, to fully let go of the past, it begins with overriding the past and learning to create the new in the present moment. It does not begin by excessively focusing on our flaws, excessively focusing on finding all the limited beliefs, excessively focusing on trying to heal all of our shadow. And instead, it begins with this level of personal acceptance in our journey of being who we are right now and accepting what is right now and moving forward from that place. And so there's this common thing I keep seeing in the industry where we are almost obsessed and addicted to the personal development work from a lens that we are not actually changing any aspects of our identity. And instead, what we're doing is we're on this excessive healing track, trying to heal all of the wounds, trying to fix what's wrong, trying to move forward, but failing to move forward. And as a turn, we're not getting actual results because we're not actually changing things on the energetic level. So one thing I've really been learning, and this is lesson 1, is really to look at reality from this lens of, but am I changing the energetic work, or am I just fixating on what's external around me? Am I only focused on healing from a space of looking at my past, or am I looking at healing from a space of building on from the present reality? One of the reasons why I'm so passionate about manifestation work is because I believe it's the next step beyond the healing path. Beyond the healing path, the ascension path, the awakening path, it is all about co-creation and learning to step into being a co-creator of your life. So when I began to really look at this work from a different lens, instead of excessively focusing on healing, personal development, focusing on this lens of what do I need to fix? What do I need to heal? What do I need to let go? Beyond the letting go is overriding the past. So the first lesson I really learned this year was really about how can I override the past to create the new in the present now, and starting to look at it from this lens of, can I just drop the past and start to create the new? Can I start to be in a space of acceptance where I can be okay with what is and override the past? And that's when I started to see real shifts occur, because in that space, lack does not exist. And in this space of lack not existing, I have no reason to hold on to my past anymore. So it enabled me to easily step through and have quantum leaps, because I was no longer in this space of, I gotta fix what's wrong with me, I gotta heal this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And then instead, what enabled a more of a cohesive, aligned path is learning to see the past for what it is and realize it's optional. Living from the past is optional. Creating the new is also optional, because we live in a field of infinite possibilities and probability. So lesson 1 was really about looking at, how can I step into this space within myself where I can drop the limited belief and step into the new? How can I start to create a new path forward? So step 1 was really about looking at, override the past, create in the now. And that was the hugest lesson I learned this year, was, how can I override the past to create in the new? How can I step more and more and more and more and more into my next level self by enabling the new, by stepping into the embodiment of the new? Instead of fixating on the lack and the uncertainty and the doubt and that over place of overthinking, I started to learn that it wasn't about being externally influenced. And instead, in lesson 2, what I really learned was this was about going within, acting from intuition, removing the doubt, removing the uncertainty, so I can personally see clearly. So what I began to notice is, anytime I would be in doubt and uncertainty and really feel into this place where I was in a fear mind state, and my focus would be misaligned. So I would be in a contractive energy. So what I began to notice is, every time I was externally influenced and externally triggered, I was not tuning back into my intuition. And that put me on a path of recycling my past, which connects to lesson 1. So what I began to see is that every time I did that, I was projecting my insecurities onto my desire instead of being present and co-creating in the now. So what I began to notice is, every time I was externally influenced, I was not acting from a space of alignment. So the lesson here is, where are you being externally influenced and not guided from within? Where are you being externally influenced and not allowing yourself to be in a space where you can act from intuition, from flow, from soul, from higher truth? And instead, you're being externally influenced from fear, doubt, uncertainty, clouded, in a space where you're future tripping, regretful of the past. In that space, we cannot co-create in the now, because we are dominated by the past programming. We are dominated by recycling the past. So in that space, we're not allowing ourselves to be fully present in the now to manifest. And instead, we're being overrun by the past, and we're allowing that external influence, which is very normal. This is a very societal belief, where we are being externally influenced instead of guided by within. And when we're guided from within, we are being self-led and guided. So lesson 2, I really learned to stop being externally influenced and instead be self-led and self-guided from within. So I invite you to really feel into that and where are the areas where you're still being externally influenced and you're not being guided from within? Because I think it's just like I kept having these experiences where I'd keep going back to the same lesson over and over and over and over again, and it would always go back to the same thing. Are you being self-led and guided? Are you actually listening to your intuition, or are you listening to fear? Are you actually being guided by fear? Are you taking action from a space of fear? Or are you taking action from a space of soul, from a space of higher self? Are you tuning back in? Are you believing, or are you in a state of disbelief? Because that was really that turning point where I began to see that believing and being in a space of tuning into my intuition, tuning into my flow, tuning into that level of purpose, it created a totally different resonance with what I was attracting into my life. And I started to realize that the more I was self-led and guided, the easier things began to happen and occur, because I was no longer dominated by the fear mind, by the past, and by any of that. So that's really what I explored a lot in the Alignment Reset Challenge, is this recreating of resetting your mindset, which leads me into lesson 3, which was mindset dominates everything. And that was one of the hugest lessons I learned this year, is mindset dominates everything. So when we think it's about the strategy, when we think it's about the action, when we think it's about really knowing, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? How do I get out of this situation? How do I do this? How do I get over this? How do I overcome this? How do I heal this? How do I do this? We're all just in a place of unconscious lack. And so when we look at it from this lens of really flipping the dial, of looking at, well, what are the energetics behind this situation? How can I realize that the strategy that I'm doing things in is actually backed by an energetic signature that I'm creating? And that energetic signature is actually what's dominating my results. So instead of looking at it from this lens of, well, in this space of really being clear with myself, what am I doing differently that is not allowing myself to be in a space of flow and uncertainty? And instead, where can I be in a space where I can be in the alignment, in the flow, in the certainty of who I am, and allowing this space to open up more and more magnetism, because that is what will allow me to drop fully in. And when I'm in the space of dropping fully in, then I am realizing that the mindset is guiding my actions. The mindset work is guiding my actions from a space of the being flows into the doing. The being flows into the doing, which allows the strategy, the opportunities, the possibilities, everything to naturally flow and expand and occur, because I am now in a space of beingness, which allows the mindset work to propel me forward. So one of the hugest lessons I learned this year is being pulls into doing, not doing pulls into being. It's never do, be, have. It is be, do, have. And when you be, do, have, you're starting to understand that the magnetism is naturally occurring the more you are in the space of next level identity. So I feel like the hugest lessons I've learned this year is about next level identity work, and about stepping into the mindset to produce the clarity of being self-led and guided, so that you are no longer in a space where you are projecting from the past and choosing the past as an option. Instead, you're learning to co-create in the now by the mindset embodiment and the identity work to sustain the vision into accelerating your results into reality. And so one of the hugest lessons here is I really learned that mindset is everything, because mindset is what is producing your results. Mindset is guarding your habits. If you want real change, start to look at your habits and what your mindset is doing behind those habits, because that will show you a lot on how your alignment is created. Are you in a space of misalignment, or are you in a space of alignment? Because it will show you a lot about how your actions are producing your results. So when we look at it from this lens of mindset creates the strategy it changes the entire conversation we're telling ourselves, because a lot of us are taught that it's the strategy and we have to figure out the hows and we have to figure out what to do and we have to strategically follow this plan of action and we have to follow our to-do lists and we have to strategically follow this beautiful little plan that's written up by our ego because our ego knows what's best. And the reality is the energetics creates the aligned action through the magnetism, which allows us to be in a space of flow, which naturally pulls us into the path of least resistance. So the hugest lesson I've learned this year is, how do you activate the path of least resistance? It's through your mindset. It's through overriding the past, and it's through being in a space where you are not being externally influenced. You are instead being self-led and guided from within, from your intuition. And so those are the top 3 lessons that I really learned this year that have completely transformed my life, that have allowed me to manifest a house, that have allowed me to just completely transform like my business and what I believe is possible. And I think this is such a powerful way to end our YouTube channel for this year, is sharing some of these potent lessons I've been learning. I would love to know, what have been the top 3 lessons that you've learned this year? I'd love to know, what are your thoughts about what I shared? And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next year. I'm so excited. 2022 is a numerology number, and the 222 gate is all about really actualizing our desire. You know, in numerology, the 1111 is the state of the gateway, and the 222 is always about what is beyond the gateway. And then we have the 333 energy, which is like the merging of the triangle. I'm like trying to draw triangles. Is like, when you think about it from like really like old school numerology days, like the 111, 222, and 333 is, it creates the triangle. So the 222 is what happens after the gateway. So I think this is going to be a really powerful year for us in terms of understanding energy and really moving through this revolution of consciousness that is occurring on the planet right now. And if there's anything the pandemic has taught us, it's that we are really in a point of revolution right now. We are in a rising, a paradigm shift that is occurring within our minds, within our strategic actions, within our actions and our habits that is happening right now. And there is no better time than now to start really anchoring in our own soul alignment and really learning how to create a soul-aligned life. And that is what I am here for. So if you'd love to work together, I'll drop some links below. If you are ready to have a divinely aligned year, you can join us for the final days of Awaken Your Aligned Vision workshop, which is going to be going back into the vault for next year. And here at the Awaken State, we're wishing you a beautiful, happy new year, full of warm blessings, abundance, and lots of magic. Remember, the universe is inside of you, and you hold the power to design your life. Love ya!